In the following podcast episode, you will hear how Lou, an NHS 111 and 999 call handler during a stressful global pandemic, used smart wellness habits to not only transform her wellness pillars, but also reverse her biological age. On today's episode of my podcast series, where I have been talking to a range of folks who have been through the Smart Wellness Programme and talking to them about their own experiences of going through the same programme that I put myself through, that's documented in my book NEURON. And today we have in the studio Lou, who has not only been through the Smart Wellness Programme, she nailed the Smart Wellness Programme.
Thank you.
And today we're going to hear about how she did it and the parts of the programme that she found most beneficial in her own wellness and her own life. So welcome to the headquarters here on a sunny afternoon. Sunny afternoon in November.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And if you can hear tinkling in the background, that's Charlie. He's got a little bell on his collar, a little thing. So if you're wondering, it's not Father Christmas on his way with the reindeer sleigh bells. It's just Charlie wandering around, keeping us company. So
audience participation.
Exactly. So, where should we start? We start at the very beginning.
Very good place to start.
Yes. So, do you want to just dive in, give a bit of background to start with?
Well, yeah, of course. So I had always spent all my life since I was 16 self-employed, fueling those wheels of industry, and had a lifetime of stress, managing staff, managing teams. Trained as a counsellor about 15 years ago because I wanted to do something which was in a helping capacity. So I kind of had a basic understanding of how beneficial things like mindfulness were, and being grateful for the things that we have. And then I sold my business about 5 years ago now, went to work for 111, decided to have a job where I could literally leave it at the front door.
Just explaining to our worldwide clients there, 111 is...
NHS 111 service is the non-emergency telephone number that you'd ring, as opposed to ringing 999 in an emergency where you need medical assistance right away, but it's not an emergency. So I deal with that, plus also taking 999 calls from the general public. But it's a job I do on a very part-time basis and is effectively stress-free. So I moved from having a very stressful life, raising my 2 children, running a home, to becoming a mother whose babies had left and had an empty nest, sold my business and had a relatively chilled, relaxed and wonderful life. I already had an understanding, as I say, of the kind of good mental health and well-being, but I wasn't really sure how I could embed that into my life and make it like a daily habit without setting goals that seemed a bit unrealistic, like making a list of 100 things I had to do in one day, like go outside and stretch and run and go and do a boxing class and all that kind of thing. And that's when I was introduced to the Smart Wellness Plan.
Yeah, so go back to, where did wellness start going down the wrong path? And also, without downplaying, saying, oh, well, I went to a stress-free life. Working for the NHS during a global pandemic can't really be described as a stress-free life.
I guess not.
Talk us through that. So how, where did wellness start going down the wrong road? And now what have you noticed now since adopting a smart wellness habit-based life?
Wellness, I think, for me, started probably going downhill when my business was probably at its most successful. So it was extremely busy, very demanding, and I felt there wasn't really time for myself. So I wasn't eating properly, I wasn't having limited sleep, I wasn't taking time to be sociable or to exercise or to do anything other than really work. And because I'd never really been a worrier, I would never say I'm a worrier, but I did find that in order to cope with the stress, I would drink. So I would drink probably every day, and that would obviously massively affect my sleep. So I started noticing, and it was only really when I sold the business and removed that element of stress that I thought, Jesus, these habits, you know, they kind of gradually, which is what happens, right? It gradually creeps up on you.
Yep.
Your waistline starts increasing, and inch by inch, you don't notice it at the time, but then all of a sudden you're a stone, 2 stone heavier. So I moved away from that lifestyle, but then, as you say, walked sort of straight into the COVID issue within the NHS, which of course at the time was, well, it was massively stressful. As a warrior and somebody that can manage their own stress, it didn't affect me in ways that it affected some of my colleagues, that's for sure. But it still was incredibly pressurizing, and because nobody really knew where it was going, what was going to happen, there was this element of kind of like an unknown issue, and also the element of kind of, well, we're in control of this, as in we don't know where it's going to go, so we've got to just take control of our own being and navigate that, because that's all we can do.
And you can't do, like, from an NHS 111999 call handling perspective, it's not business as usual in a global pandemic, right?
No.
Because things that would normally be routine, well, this is the process, if this happens, we do this, that and the other.
Yeah.
But when no one's going to hospital unless they're absolutely critical,
and even then we were having to decide who got ambulances, and you know, you may have seen that in the press, it was a reality. And as you say, there was no precedence for that. There was no sort of, we have contingencies in place, obviously, if there's a, you know, national emergency, we have things that we know what process to follow if those things happen. But with COVID, there was just, everything was unknown. So everyone was kind of trying to pull together to help. But the biggest thing that we noticed was support for our own staff. You know, obviously you hear on the TV and the radio how nurses and people, sort of actual frontline workers with patients face to face, how they were suffering. But I don't think anybody really, unless you're in it, has an understanding of the magnitude of how big it was.
No. So then in July, so 4 months ago, we met, and well, I mean, we'd met before then, but we met from a smart wellness perspective, and you decided to do the 8-week program.
I did.
And so tell us about your experience with that.
My experience has been hugely positive, and I know that you commented on the fact that I kind of just got on with it and got stuck in. I do find it quite easy to be self-motivated, although the plan, it was easy. I mean, I know we talk about it all the time about just these small little tiny habits, just changing things slightly can have such a massive effect. So I didn't find any aspect of it difficult to do. There was nothing that I thought, I don't really understand that, because of course it's backed up with all the information in the book, which I read avidly. I was able to relate the scientific part of it, perhaps where I didn't understand why things would happen or why your body would work that way, and gain an understanding of that as well. So I liked the fact that I was actually gaining a knowledge base as well about how my brain would work, and ended up boring all my friends with it every time we got together. I would say, did you know?
Scooted pub quiz
Exactly.
scenario, although these things never come up in pub quiz, but we should do a smart wellness pub quiz maybe. But which parts of the program? So every person I'm talking to had their own, you know, everyone is unique in there. Some people can't sleep, some people are hugely stressed, some people it's their weight, some people it's their gut balance, or you know, they've got various other complaints. So everyone's slightly different in what they're trying to fix. So, and therefore there are different parts of the plan that are more relevant to them. So which were the bits that were most relevant to you, do you think?
I think, as I say, I'd always had a basic understanding of most of the pillars of the wellness wheel, but it was about, for me, it was like, I think mainly consuming was really, really interesting, and understanding again the science behind it, how supermarkets will try and persuade us to buy certain foods and prompt us into sort of different types of eating patterns and what types of food, and then understanding the benefits of actually eating non-processed food and the benefits of what actually fruit and vegetables do for you. And again, with the breathing, because we think that's just like natural, right? We don't have to, our brain doesn't have to work hard to do that. It's a natural reaction. But understanding what happens when you do practice your breathing, like the 6-4 breathing, which I found quite easy to do and useful. So I think those things for me were particularly helpful. My sleeping was never really much of an issue. The exercise
and the timed eating.
Oh yeah, intermittent fasting. That's something I've embraced and actually really enjoy, because again, like we've said before, with the whole diet and going to the gym, and you've got to get up and you've got to eat breakfast because it gets your metabolism going, and all those stupid things. Well, not stupid, but all those things that we've been taught for decades and decades. Actually, to understand that the science behind it shows that if you don't eat for 16 to 18 hours, your body will use the stored fats and sugars and everything it already has. It's like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
And then when you practice it, you find that actually it's not difficult.
Yeah.
I didn't find it difficult anyway.
No.
So that had a big impact on me.
So what we will be revealing to the listeners today is that we have tested your biological age.
We have.
Now that you've been doing this for 4 months, and we've tested your gut health and your gut performance, gut bacteria. And so yeah, shall we? So go on. So
well, I think it's just important to say at this point, I am not religious in my habits, so I still have a long way to go. I'd say I'm probably 75% of the way there. Like you said, some things are more relevant to me than others. I still need to work on my alcohol consumption. I still need to work on why do you laugh? Oh, probably because you've got something to do with that.
I need to work on your alcohol consumption because I've been getting the hangovers.
So there are still aspects that I would like to further enhance. I've taken it on board. I've really enjoyed it. I found it to be so super helpful. And the most important thing, when we reconnected, and I said to you something about my life expectancy, didn't I say something like 75, 83, I think it was. Yeah. And you looked at me as if I was an alien that just landed from Mars.
We've changed
that. So, so now we've tested that, and apparently, although I'm turning 50 in the spring, I'm actually living in the body of a 32-year-old.
That is correct, ladies and gentlemen.
32 years
So,
young.
yeah, the glycan age test showed a biological age of 32, which is superb, right?
Yeah.
Well
cool.
done.
Thank you.
And the gut health test came back 10 out of 10. So,
which I was not expecting. Everybody
nailed it.
But
I mean, you've been eating really, really well, like tons of like diversification of fruits and vegetables, timed eating, all, I mean, you're not drinking in the week now. It's just like the colossal amounts at the weekends.
Make up for it Friday to Sunday. No, I don't.
But not so. All those changes have a really big impact, and so that's.
But they were
good.
all gradual. They were little things that I tried on a daily basis, and I thought, well, this is easy, or this is not so easy. This might take a bit of work and a bit of thinking about.
But then it becomes the new normal.
Yeah, so and then you realise you're doing things like. So stretching for me wasn't really a massive thing since I stopped doing karate. And you mentioned something once to me about trying to make it part of your daily habit in a way that fits in. So now when I put my shoes on, I lift my leg up onto the chair and I put a stretch in.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly what I do.
Still a stretch.
It's so easy, right? I mean, before I was
crouching down,
right,
yeah,
and then you
over.
just do that, and then you get a stretch of the hip flexors. And the same with when I open my curtains.
I was going to say,
I
open the curtains.
But I open the curtains at the top now, which gives you a massive stretch. I put all my mugs on the top shelf, and so they were easy reach on the bottom shelf. Make them, and you just build that into your day. Stand up desk, all of that kind of stuff. So very good. Well, it's super exciting that you have found this so interesting,
and very rewarding.
Yes, and that you have nailed it, and that you are now going out and preaching the smart wellness
word to the converted.
Yeah, you're preaching elsewhere now, and taking it into
sharing it
to work with your NHS employees, and with mentoring other people who are going through the smart wellness program right now. Because this is stuff people need to know. This stuff, right?
We need to get it out there, because once everybody reads it, sees it, listens to it, they are fully on board and welcome it into their lives, and everybody should be doing it, right? Everyone should be aware.
What a great note to end on. Okay, well, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.